back when we were Fraser Hubbard
Yeah.
Grant Trust.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
You can keep him from, so he can go up from the side. Since the thing Okay, seeing it's 6:30, I'll call to order the May 6th, 2019 meeting of the Heritage Preservation Board. Everyone silence their cell phones, please. And can we do some introductions, starting with Kim?
Kimberly Yothers, Secretary to the Board.
Pat Cornell, member.
Laura Milford, member.
Carol Johnson, Chair.
Carrie Page, member.
Patrick Perez, Board Attorney.
Pat McNeese, principal planner.
We have a roll call?
Ms. Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Page,
Here.
Ms. Milford,
Here.
Ms. Cornell.
Here.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any topic that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no one, I guess we'll proceed with the organizational part of the meeting.
Yes, Chair, this board elected the chair last meeting and decided that they were going to elect the vice chair this meeting. So as we proceed, is there any nomination of a vice chair for this board?
Oh, I think Ms. Page has been here the longest of all of us and should therefore be nominated for vice chair.
Okay, so, is there anyone else that would like to nominate anyone else for vice chair? Chair, you have one nomination. If you would like to, you can do a voice vote for that nomination. So if you just want to call a vote for the vice chair?
Yeah. Call a vote.
So the motion would be, or the move.
Do we
for-
need a second for that motion?
You can second. It's just a nomination process. So someone's been nominated. So if you just want to call the vote for that person.
Okay.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Milford,
Yes.
Ms. Cornell.
Yes.
Congratulations, Ms. Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Let's see, in your packet are the minutes from the April 1st, 2019 meeting. Are there any discussion or comments on the minutes?
Yes, I have one. At that meeting, I asked Mr. Perez if it made a difference that I was acquainted with the applicant, and he had said no, and I'd like that entered into the minutes because it's not.
Okay. You take care of that. And I guess I noted that as well, so if you're going to put one in, might. Okay, can we have a quasi-judicial?
So the next part would be that someone needs to move to accept the minutes as amended.
Oh, okay. Okay, does anyone move to accept the minutes as amended?
I move to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
And you can just do a voice vote, Madam Chair.
Yes.
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 So just call for all in favor.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved as amended.
Who was the second?
Ms. Page.
Thank you.
And Chair, would you like me to read the quasi-judicial?
Yes,
announcement? Okay,
please.
thank you. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Heritage Preservation Board acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board wishing to disclose any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest? If anyone is wishing to speak tonight, or if you think you may speak, if you please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
So sworn.
Okay, so the application tonight is application 19-20, 405 West Lemon Street, construction of a new covered porch on a contributing structure. And I'll point out that this is continued from the meeting of April 1st, 2019. We start with the staff comments.
Yes, as mentioned, this is a request for a certificate of approval to add a front porch to an existing single-family residence located at 405 West Lemon Street. The architectural style is minimal traditional. This is residences of wood frame construction. It's located in the R60 zoning district, residential urban future land use district. This was continued from your last meeting, and in the interim, the applicant submitted additional information. And so this staff report has been revised from the one that you had at your last meeting. The applicant also requested and received from city staff a list of other addresses for other minimal traditional style residences. I did that just via a search of master site file for that type, so I'm assuming that I got them all that are on the list. I went ahead and included that same information for the board and the pictures, some pictures that were pulled off of Google Street View. So you can take those for what they are. But that is the list of addresses that the applicant received. The City of Tarpon Springs Design Review Guidelines Manual does not include standards for the minimal traditional architectural style. And going through the review criteria, as far as the height and width, item 1, this porch is proposed at 31 feet wide and 10 feet deep. And the width is designed to fall just short of the width of the residence. The height is proposed to align pretty much with the current roof line of the front of the structure. Surrounding structures are also one-story structures with either covered stairs or landings at the main entrance. So in general, the proposal of a porch or an enhanced landing is not out of character with structures in the neighborhood. It's the scale of the proposed porch itself in the context of the building style that we looked at further and reevaluated based on the additional information and the other structures in the city. It appears that porches for similar structures are smaller in terms of both width and depth. As far as item 2, the porch does not propose to cover or alter existing features on the facade, the building's facade. However, it does add kind of a framing of those features, and it is a 10-foot deep porch, so there would be presumably some shading of those features. So it may tend to diminish those features. It's something that should probably be looked at as far as a reduction in the scale of the porch, or a design that's more sympathetic to the front facade features, window fenestration. Those types of features should be considered. The porch will remove or cover the existing front steps. The applicant proposes new brick stairs, which are staff feels acceptable as far as the material and the design. I couldn't quite tell if the staircase width matched the current staircase, and I would suggest that it would be a good idea to do that, as the current staircase is at least not wider than the entry gable. It may be slightly narrower. The staircase on the drawing shows a handrail. The applicant indicates in the application that the existing handrail would be removed, so we need clarification on whether there will be handrails and what that would be. On item 3, as far as the current dimensions proposed at 10 feet deep, that would bring the porch to within 19.3 feet of the front property line, so that would bring it closer to the street. And the reduced front yard in and of itself doesn't interfere with the character of the neighborhood. It does provide greater interaction with the street. It appears that the grade elevation is slightly above the street. If you're standing on the street, that your eye line would be looking at the front facade. So it's kind of conjecture at this point as to how much the roof would cover the facade from the sidewalk or the street. The porch the setback does comply with the R60 zoning district. And as far as the roof line seems to be compatible with the home's existing side gabled roof. It's really, the question in my mind with this item was how the proposed roof is attached to the entry gable, or how they come together. And what is happening with the features on the entry gable that correspond with where the roof would come in, especially the brackets and the lower corner board. The applicant proposes a shingle roof to match the existing roof, and that seems to be acceptable with this style and with what's on the residence now. Item 5, the applicant states that the front windows and door will be untouched. And the site file features are retained and they are visible. The features mentioned are the asymmetrical facade and the windows set in pairs and triplicates. But again, the 10-foot depth of the porch and the roof covering may tend to kind of diminish these features with respect to the residents, so that's something that should be looked at. And also the front entry assembly, how that works, the gable, the entrance, and the stairs. And the porch will not interfere with the side gable design, the little roof overhang noted on the site file, and the eave returns that the applicant noted. As far as architectural details, item 7, just try to mention anything new that I haven't already mentioned. The wood porch rails, we would suggest that might be a feature that could possibly detract from the simplicity of this style. So it's suggested that the rails be removed in favor of the standalone column supports. The materials proposed for the plank, actually the column supports, I believe the applicant did know it would be of wood, but the materials for the plank decking, the porch beam, porch eaves type thing, and the staircase handrail are unknown at this point. We would need to hear what those materials are. With respect to item 8, the porch does enhance the use of the structure with respect to the occupants and relationship to the street and the neighborhood. It's really more of a concern with the porch's impact on the architecture of the structure itself, and that it should more closely reflect the architecture and the time period of the building. With respect to item 9, we feel that at this time the porch does not meet all of the standards, but that it is possible to modify the project design in a way that the standards could be met. Again, the project does conform with the R60 zoning district regulations and all other standards of the Land Development Code and the city's comprehensive plan. So due to what appears to be a significant alteration to the appearance of the front facade of this contributing structure, staff would find that the porch addition may not meet all of the applicable standards as outlined in this report. And we would encourage the applicant, I believe the applicant has a presentation, we would encourage them to look at redesign or modification of the design. I've listed some suggestions, but I think that I would like to hear from the board and from the applicant. Property owners within 200 feet were notified of this application, and there were no responses received. Are there any questions?
Seeing no questions for staff, we'll proceed with the discussion from the applicant. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Bill Sprecher. I live at 405 West Lemon. Hang on one second.
And
Always something right in the beginning.
yeah, just real quick, we have a PowerPoint.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you- Yeah,
Let me see.
and I'm not sure how to.
No, we got it.
You got
He
it.
showed me how to do it.
Okay, great.
Okay,
You're way ahead of me.
couple things. We have noted, we got the report from Pat last Thursday. We've noted this, and we're making some changes. We'll discuss them tonight. Okay, this will be later. I brought John, Hoffman. I knew it, right? John Hoffman, he's my designer, so he'll go over to the design. What I wanted to go through was a little bit of the history, because it kind of concerned me a little bit that one document had the style as being a minimal traditional, the other didn't have it at all. Okay, and the guidelines, the manual guidelines are the ones that we didn't have that. So I did a lot of research, and to tell you the truth, it's all over the place as far as what a minimal traditional is. But the best information I got was from the Georgia Department of Resources, the Historic Preservation Division. They did a research back in 1990. They started running into these houses that didn't match anything. Okay, they're small houses like this one was originally around 800 square foot, minimal decorations, but they were decorations, of different styles though. And then another thing, they all seem to be in one time period, which was 1935 to around 1950. So they were at a loss. They go through, actually what it was a slide presentation I ran into. I never got the report, but this slide presentation was pretty good. It went into it and they said, some of them were called Depression-era cottages, others were called Warriors cottages, Victory cottages, FHA houses, the variety, but it was the same type of design, but different, they didn't match anything. So it stated that they kind of had an epiphany where they realized that this is not only in Georgia they had these houses, they had them all over the country. Okay, so they started looking at national policies of the time. And essentially in 1935 or in the early 30s, that was the Great Depression. Okay, housing starts dropped off from 1930, was around 300,000 homes, dropped down to around less than 100,000 in 3 years. So it was a real press to get this industry back online again. And as a result, through a number of commissions and stuff like that, FDR brought in the Housing Act, which brought in FHA, Federal Housing Authority, and they developed a set of standards that would outline essentially a small economical house. And let me see, they were like detached. They wanted it to be a detached house, single story, square rectangular. Essentially what they wanted was the most amount of house you could get for the less amount of money. Okay, gabled roof. They wound up being very tight. In other words, the mass is very small. Hence you have, like on these houses, you don't have exposed beams. Everything's close in. My eaves are 9 inches. It's a very tight eave. And the decorations or the details were supposed to be kept very, very simple. Okay. So the way they did this was they worked with the banks And the FHA guaranteed loans to build a house. They were the only ones that could guarantee them at that time. You know, it was a federal guarantee. And they would only guarantee houses that fit this criteria. So essentially, they were pushing small houses like this for the FHA. And they're essentially trying to get starter homes, people into houses. Let me see if I'm forgetting anything. One thing that this report really specified and tied down was there's a difference between architectural style and architectural type, okay? And believe me, I had to think about that one too, okay? But essentially, architectural style has two fundamentals, main fundamentals. One is, of course, decoration, and the type of decoration you have, the location of it, the way it looks on the house. That's one thing. You know, that's one type of fundamental. The other one was proportion to scale and the mass, the symmetry, things like this. So in other words, if you had like a craftsman house, you had a big one, it should look like a craftsman house. It's a small one, you know, because of proportions and such should be the same. And in fact, that's one of the ones they talked about was craftsman. Types, on the other hand, is a simple. It's floor plan times plus height equals a type. Essentially, it's a construction type. Okay, this is what they have. They looked at all these houses. The one thing that was familiar or the same with everything was the floor plan, the way it was. You know, the way it was built, the construction, which was different than what they used to build. Before that, they used to use a frame balloon structure where they put the beams up or the walls up in one piece, and then they build the floors in between, something like this. These are platforms. You build a platform, floor on it, stuff like that, and then you go up to the next one. That helps in standardizing all the materials. Now you have all your walls are the same height, all the lumber's the same. Okay, so what they concluded was that the minimal tradition wasn't really a style. It was a building type, the way they built it, the floor plan. In fact, they found that it could have any style, or it could have no style at all. In Georgia, there was a couple, most of their houses were like a colonial type. Here, mine in particular is more frame vernacular, okay? Charleston, I remember seeing them when I worked there, and they were brick veneer. You know, that matched the area where it was at. So, going a little bit further on this, the character, like I said, the characteristics for minimal traditional, okay? And what I'm proposing is this house in particular lends a lot of its style, or takes a lot of its style from the frame vernacular of the area. So when you go to the review guideline manual of frame vernacular, you have, you know, it's a frame resting on brick pillars or concrete block, horizontally sheathed, and it gives a variety of wood, asbestos, you know, siding like this. What was kind of funny was a prominent corner board and prominent trim. Gabled roof, and the windows were oriented vertically and then double hung. One thing they did say, most of them had porches, okay? And they were full facade porches. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is just kind of go over some of this, some of my house, and show you what I'm talking about, and lend into what we're proposing on actually making the, putting this porch in. As you can tell, the one thing you've got to pull from this picture is note that the front yard. This house is a lot further back than most houses in this area. It's a good, 29 foot, we said, from the, and that's a lot for a small lot like I have, okay? Okay, this is looking at the front You can tell on the corners, those are the corner boards. The gable, entry gable, it actually comes out to shelter the front door. It's asymmetric. And on this one particular house, there's a lot of windows. I mean, we have an awful lot of windows with that. You can't see it too well from here, but it is on brick pillars. Okay, gabled roof. If there's any questions or anything, feel free to call out right then and there. Okay, this is showing the side. And what you can see is we have a sunroom that was added on a while back. Okay, and it's got a flat roof on it. You can see in the corners, those are the eave returns. Those we wanted to keep. The corner boards and the eave returns, we didn't want to disturb those when we put the porch roof up. So that's why the porch roof was originally brought in around 2.5 feet from each window, from the border windows. You can see the brick pillars a lot better on this one, and can't really see it that well, but the entry porch comes out 5 foot from the front of the house. The entry dormer actually comes out 3 foot from the side of the house. Okay, now this is a close-up of the entry, and we're proposing an entry just like this. Okay, we won't be able to move it, but we're going to do it just the same dimensions, the same thing, except for having concrete stairs. It's going to have brick stairs. You know, that's the only difference. That's a metal rail. That's going, of course. We're not going to reproduce that, but the rail we are going to put on, we're going to put a rail on both sides. It's going to be a simple rail, just straight up, over, and out to out to the pillars. Everything's going to be wood. It'll be wood. Though I'm kind of history buff myself, this will be wood. Decking, everything will be wood on this, except for of course, the pillars. Okay, and the last one here. Oh, not too many. Okay, this is showing the dormer, entry dormer. We intend to retain the whole thing. Okay, now the way we're going to do that is the lower eave, we're going to bring straight out until it transits or cuts the ceiling of the porch. So that'll be around 1.5 feet flat spot in there, just like an eave, the same height as eave. So we're going to be able to retain the corner boards and the brace, and then we're going to essentially put that on top of the roof. The roof will work around this, or we don't know how it's put on there, you know. So what it'll end up with is looking exactly like this with the roof, on top of the roof going down. Okay. And is there any questions? Because I'm going to give it over to John here for a second. Okay. Any questions with the dormer?
Well, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand your research that you did, and
Yeah.
I did lots of research as well, including I have a sister that's an architect, so she helped them as well. The master site file does call this a minimal traditional.
It does, yes.
And there are only 13 of these in the city.
That's correct.
And I know the design guidelines are deficient in that, as they are in most. Unfortunately, all the underrepresented styles are the ones that aren't discussed in the masters or in the design guidelines.
Right.
The one that I'm most familiar with, and there's only 3 in town, is the English Tudor Revival, because I used to own one, and there's only 3 of those in town. But I mean, I think we need to look beyond the design guidelines and still consider it the style that it's called in the masters.
Understood. We're going to address this a little bit more when we get into design. Like I say, we have changed it from our original proposal. So we're going to get into that a little bit more.
I also went to the St. Petersburg design guidelines because they do address minimal traditional there, and I figured that was close as I could get.
Yeah, I went into that one too. Yeah. Okay. here, let me just go over a couple changes we were gonna do. One, let me back up a little bit. Okay, is the width, I can't do much about the width. The distance between the outside of the windows is around 28 foot. And you really don't want to put it inside the windows, because you're going to have your supports, where your windows are. So it kind of ties us in there. However, the depth can be changed, and what we're proposing, instead of being 10 foot, we're proposing an 8-foot depth. And a couple things. One, let's go back a second here. One of the concerns was to, you're going to be sheltering a lot of the inside. Okay. Rails make a big difference on sheltering. Okay. We go along wholeheartedly into removing the rails, not putting them on. That will open it up quite a bit. And being 2 foot less, we're going to keep the same slope and stuff, so we're going to come up a little bit. But being 2 foot less will help out an awful lot also. Hesitate going more than 8 foot, because with no rails, it really becomes you don't want to get it too small to where it's crowded and people fall off the son of a gun. So I'd like to hold it at 8. And that is reasonable, I think, because, like I say, the entrance is, let me bring this back. The entrance, okay, that's 5 foot. The bottom stair is 5 foot out. Okay, to where about 3 foot from that out would be your 8 foot, which really isn't that far. It's okay. Right here, right there. Okay. Like to add anything? Well, do you want to go over your drawings?
We can
Yeah.
talk about the approach that I took when I originally drew them, and see what the conflicts of interest are.
Okay, and I will add, you did add one drawing to your PowerPoint. I don't think you've gotten to it yet, but you
No, we
supplied hard copies, and I'll go ahead and hand those out. That was supplied today.
Okay, and then just to be clear, on number 3, the porch is proposed to add, we're gonna change that 10 to 8. Is that correct?
I believe the applicant is proposing 8 feet for the depth. I didn't quite, this drawing shows a reduced width as well.
Yes.
And what was the number on that, from 31 down to?
31, we can come in 1.5 feet each side from the original, so that would put it around 28.
Okay, so those,
Say that again, please.
I'm sorry?
Say,
was-
speak into the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was originally 31 feet. Okay, that put us an 1.5 foot beyond each of the windows.
Okay.
Okay, you can see there, it's a little bit beyond. Really, for it to look right, we can only bring it into the windows. So that would bring it in, I can bring it in 1.5 foot on either side to line it up with the windows. And that would bring it down to 28 foot. Okay. Okay.
My name's John Hoffman. I live at 900 Bayshore Drive, and I respect the work that the Historic Preservation Board does, and I appreciate the challenge with this style of house, because it is unique in that it's almost absent of detailing, where the rest of the neighborhood, Bill's neighborhood, is starting to become nicer and nicer, and so to try to maintain the minimal traditional style is a challenge, in that I think over the years it's going to be challenged more and more, as people are living in that neighborhood that are fixing their houses up, and the values are going up considerably from what they were when it was originally designed. But the the first thing, when you look at the site plan, the site, it just seems as if the house was set on the lot to accommodate a porch. And the part of the minimal traditional thing that I couldn't quite understand, but they up north, in Cape Cod and stuff, they had the roofs were at a pitch that would allow for snow loads. So here we've got a traditional minimal
traditional, yeah.
It's a hard word to say. Minimal traditional that was built up north, that was set one way because of the climate conditions there. Here we've got a minimal traditional that's in Florida, where porches are kind of part of the Florida vernacular as well. So taking the porch idea and putting it onto the traditional little house in a minimal way seems like it was in keeping with what the board would like. As far as the sizes of the porch itself, part of the rationale for the 10-foot was a function where my dad taught me that form follows function. So if we're wanting this porch to function for our client, then what would be that width? So
That was the original.
So that was our original idea.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why we came up with a 10-foot. And when I did the elevations, the side elevations and the front elevation, it didn't seem like the 10-foot was going to cut it down. But I certainly understand the rationale for trying to keep it minimal. So if Bill's considering going down to 8 feet, I think that's a happy compromise between all of us, I think. So, and if he wants to keep the railing off, I certainly can't argue with that. That would just be more minimal.
It stays with the height of the porch has to be below 30 inches in order to do that. As far as we can tell right now, it's going to be 20 to 25 inches above ground.
Right.
So that makes it so we can do that.
So there again on the idea of the rail design that I have there, because we were below the legal limit, so we could we don't legally have to put a rail.
Yeah.
The rail that I did design there was very, very low, so it's not the 36-inch. It's a more of a minimal rail, which is more in keeping with the houses that were along that were built in that period of time.
Yeah, it's the railing. We designed the railing low like that in order to not block off the original windows. So that was always in our minds, but we just kept the railings on there. Taking them off will help it out a lot as far as opening it up. Okay.
So talking about reducing the width. Again, where the outside posts are on either end, that load that's sitting on the post goes up and it sits on the plate of the house itself. So it's better to have it in a safe distance from the window itself to accept the weight of that first.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and plus, I think just aesthetically, I thought it gave it enough overhang past the windows to be in keeping with the minimal style. But if the board wants to crop those down
You see
for
what
some
he's saying?
reason,
You see what he's saying there?
I thought we had is this a PowerPoint thing?
Yeah. Here, go to the next one. That one?
I know. I thought it had a laser thing.
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
No.
Anyway, yeah,
I'm not-
we're just talking about the width from the post to the window
I can do it.
itself.
Okay, so now you're talking about not making it narrower, keeping it to 31.
originally putting it out here,
Right.
okay,
Right.
was load distribution. Okay. When we get into this thing, our target will be going close to window. But again, it all depends. Have to figure out something.
You said your target is to get it as close to the window? Okay.
Right, that's the target. Okay. That's originally why we put it in this part, to keep the, corner. Want to do that. Of course, spacing in the, pillars are gonna be the same, match the house. Pillars are gonna match the house. Now, this was drawn for the original. Okay, so what we're gonna have now, if you look at it, this will be a little bit more open, just because it's gonna be pushed up. Okay. This staircase, rather than being across between the pillars, will be more lined up like this with the door.
Okay.
Same dimensions as the old. That puts it about like that. So, just like the rails we have right here, just so you can see what we're thinking about on the rails right over here. Okay, just like those rails,
Okay.
it's gonna come up same way, but, you know, we're getting in the weeds, but we can do it. Okay, so it's gonna be over here, we just have a, board across there, you know, a support to the pillar. Just don't want anybody walking off these pillars there. Again, minimal traditional, like I said, you don't have exposed beams.
And you're gonna retain the, square column supports, there'll be square column?
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
square column. That's about the simplest you can get,
Okay.
okay? Square column, simple, like I say, keep it simple as possible. The, facial board, these right here, they're only 4 inches. They'll be over. And, like I said, there's no exposed beams on the eave. Won't be any in here either, just put a ceiling. Okay, so that you have the roof, and if you look underneath, it looks just like the other side of the, don't have any exposed beams. You get all this to the wood. Any more questions? One thing I would like to say is, to go back to minimal tradition, go back to the top. Okay, these were minimum houses. These houses built as cheaply as they can, and effectively get as much house as they can, get out of it. So consequently, decorate porches, big porches, outside entry porches, stuff like that, you will generally not find on a minimal tradition. So, we're putting a porch on that's really outside of that, we're trying to keep it close to a minimum tradition as we can, still highlight all that detail. So that's why the facial boards are gonna match the house, have ceiling on the inside, on the roof, on the ceiling rather. Trying to keep it as simple as possible. That's the character.
I guess if I could just add that I feel confident that if in 100 years some historians came and wanted to bring back the traditional house, that they would know that porch, although sympathetic to the design, is not mocking the design, and that it would be easily detected and would be able to be removed if the house makes it that long.
Yeah.
So from a historic preservation standpoint, I don't think Bill's really proposing anything that would be wrong.
And all these changes, have you already got them in writing exactly what you're gonna do on
No,
the
we
changes?
don't. Like I said, we didn't catch this until Thursday, so we haven't had time to do any of these drawings yet. We kind of felt it better to talk to the board, talk to you, because we need some of your input and let us know. What we can do is we can redraw it, show you exactly what we're looking at. It looks like it's, acceptable.
That would be good. And will you also supply a materials list
I can, but it's, a lot of that, like I say, this is conceptual right now,
Okay,
okay? And my intent is that the wood deck will match wood decks of, this period. I've got a couple that are usually 2.5 inch widths, you know? And the whole configuration is gonna match what we have in here. I don't intend to go vary any.
So there's really not any materials other than just wood. We don't, there, the bricks are there. I don't know if Bill can pull off a brick and try to match that, but we're just gonna be trying to match the brick foundation.
okay, and the staircase handrails is wood as well, correct?
That's correct.
And the handrail part is also part of this code issue that will be taken up with the building department, but if they require it, we'll do it minimally with wood. If they don't require it, I would talk to Bill about whether he really feels he needs it or not.
I'm getting old.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of places where people are going up just a couple of steps like that without a handrail.
Yeah.
So any discussion from the board or questions?
Yes. First, Mr. Sprecher, Mr. Hoffman, I want to,
I can't hear you either.
First,
Speak
I-
into the mic.
okay, can you hear me now? Okay. I'd like to thank you for all the research and everything that you presented this evening. It's, I can tell that you put a lot of time and work into that, and we do appreciate that. I personally, this drawing with the existing gable, I like that you are going to shorten the length of the porch, because I think the existing gable sits better on that. It does look a little bit different than the actual gable that the photograph shows, but that's just,
That's just my drawing, yeah,
Right.
that was my drawing, and
It'll match what
Okay.
the gable is.
okay.
Yeah.
Because we're using the existing gable, so it's going to be that. But I'd like to, if you could, do you have the east elevation in your
Yeah.
PowerPoint?
Yeah,
Could we
sure.
look at that? I'm
Oh.
the drawing of it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Why does it look like there's, where the gable's supposed to be, it just looks
Okay.
different on top of the
Okay, this
porch?
right here?
Yes.
That's just the way, okay.
Is that the way it's gonna look?
Well, yeah, that's the length that it is right now,
Okay,
okay? Like I said, it comes out 3 foot,
okay,
okay, so it's not gonna come. One thing, as you go down, okay, you keep this height, okay? Project that height out all the way to that level.
right.
That means your base is gonna go out further and further as you go down. Okay. And after a while, I'd worry there would be overtaken. In fact, when I first started looking at this, I drew a lot of, we drew drawings where it would be a gable coming straight out,
Mm.
and it's just too heavy. This is a light design, Now it's straight, it would just make it too heavy, really.
Yes, I just couldn't
Yeah.
I
talk it
think
out.
Well,
if I could also just talk about elevations to a degree, and that it's a flat drawing. In other words, everything's in scale this way. When you're driving by on the street or walking by, you would see all of this in perspective.
Right.
So that gable part would be minimalized there, and the undercarriage of the roof would be accentuated to some degree in your eye,
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a little misleading, and elevations are just problematic that way, but it's the only way to really do a mechanical drawing, so.
This house is a lot higher than the road. So I suspect, you don't know for sure, but I suspect when you walk by, you'll be able to see the ceiling of the roof of the porch. You'll be able to see inside the 7th floor.
Thank you.
You have anything
Any
else?
other discussion?
Okay.
Well, I have, sorry.
No, do you have any more? What?
Well, I'm conflicted, and you brought up most of the things that I'm conflicted about.
Right.
While I know that this style doesn't necessarily lend itself to the way people live today,
Exactly.
I do believe it is a characteristic, an important piece of heritage and preservation thereof, because it represents a time in history, and the fact that we have so few of these in the neighborhood, it causes me concern to radically alter one. I had hoped you would shorten it, and I do understand now with the windows why you can't do that. But all my research on minimal traditional talked about porches, basically entry porches, but,
Essentially,
the
that's
width
right.
of the door.
Now, if you look.
Yeah, I know you've got two pictures
Yeah,
in
no,
here.
no, there's a couple more. Hang on one second. I'll point
Do
them
you
out.
know how wide the 308 Pineapple Street porch is?
The what?
The width, the depth of the porch on,
By looking, it's at least 6.
you think so?
That's the one on Pineapple.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now those two,
Well, the one on Spring I discount because that property's been altered and that's no longer a minimal
on
traditional
Reed?
style.
Oh, which one?
The one on South Spring Boulevard.
South Spring, exactly. Okay, what I want to bring your attention to is on your first page. Okay, you've got one that's 320 Bay. Okay, and you have another one 324 Bay.
Right.
Okay, these are minimal traditional. They're more in the town frame of mine because it's 1945. Now this, I've seen these floor plans. Mine is what is called a 4-room floor plan. Got 2 bedrooms, living area, and a kitchen. This is a 5. Okay, this is a 3-bedroom style. Okay, they're not near as common as the 2 bedrooms. Okay, now look at the 320. That side porch where the door is, that's been added on. Okay, originally it looked more like the 324. Okay, so they do lend themselves to add-ons, like this.
Well,
I
it depends
understand.
on what, I mean, that may have been added on before this board was
Oh yeah, it was.
established.
Yeah,
Some
probably
of
same with the other
reasons
two.
why, so.
But I think what John's saying, what I'm proposing, I hear what you're saying there, but these are houses, these are homes. They're not in a museum.
I understand,
Yeah, no, they
but
have-
our job as the Heritage Preservation Board is to deal with the house.
Understand,
And
understand.
preserve the heritage of it.
Yeah, but this,
So
we're
I just
trying to keep
need
it.
for you to know I'm
Yeah.
conflicted.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it as close as we can to it and keep the character of the neighborhood. It fits the character of the neighborhood. And we believe that if the porch fits the character of the house, being as minimal as we can get it. Okay, yes, okay.
I think the simplicity of the design of the porch goes along with the minimal traditional. It doesn't in any way change the character of the minimal traditional. It may add something to it, but it doesn't change it in any way because it's so simplistic.
Yeah, except that porches aren't characteristic of the style. That's what's got me.
I think when those homes were all built, and it was after the Depression, and money was very, very tight, and they did it that way for the simplicity of it, I don't think they were intended to remain that way forever. I mean, you did what you had to do with $10, but with the intention of always adding on. I can't imagine that the people, would expect to live that same way forever.
Oh, I understand that, but I do believe that in future generations that we have to preserve that, otherwise it would all be lost.
And I don't think
Yeah.
the porch in any way detracts from that, and the fact that it's so extremely simple. I mean, especially without the railings. there's very little to detract from the facade of the house.
Yeah, it's really only the size at this point that's
Mm.
struggling. I'm glad you're removing the rails. That definitely is not.
Oh, yeah,
acceptable.
no, that, we
Close
can agree
with
with
the
that.
reduction in the size
Hmm?
to fit into the guidelines. How, he's reduced it some, are we?
Well, there's nothing in, I
There
mean,
are
the
no
guidelines
guidelines.
don't speak to minimal traditional.
Mhm.
My research says the porches all tended to be entry.
Yeah, that's what the pictures
Yeah.
are showing.
That's because they were built during the Depression and during the war. You know, they just didn't have the money for that. You know, and they couldn't get loan guarantees either. And that was a big thing.
Well, I'm gonna look to Mr. Perez for a little guidance on where to go from here, because we don't have his final specification, so I'm not sure we have anything that we can vote on at this.
Sure. So you have the application as presented. The board with the applicant can discuss things, to try to work out something. You can vote on it tonight. You can put conditions on it. And you can also, with the discussion with staff, and staff, please correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but, continue the discussion, and you could always continue it one more time. I don't know if that helps at all.
And if staff could be recognized. The other thing is, I think that the applicant was looking for board input, so thank you for that. I kind of made a list of the items discussed, and we can go through that if you'd like, because that applicant is I think, looking for as specific direction as possible. The other thing is, I mean, I did a minor amount of research, probably nowhere near what you two did. But I think the main message I got was the minimal part, as the applicant described, was a deliberate style. That is what makes it notable, I guess, is the fact that it was a very minimal style designed for that time period. But looking at the other structures in the city, and you guys called out a couple of these. 308 Pineapple Street on page 12 of the staff report is an example of one that obviously has a larger porch. Now that gable comes all the way out to the front of the porch, but the roof lines are varied. I don't know if there's anything else. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and design the project for the applicant, but if there's anything else that the applicant should consider, the other thing I noted was some of these houses have, and I'm not really great at architectural terms, but kind of differing planes, like frontal planes, like the 225 Shattuck Street on that same page, some of the others, whereas your front is on one plane. So the other ones do have kind of, some of them do have a little bit less minimal look, I guess. Because of that, I don't know if there's some way that aspect can be accomplished by the porch. Could be that you reduce the porch and, I don't know, have some of it uncovered as a slab. That may be way off. But there may be some other options there. But at this point, it's pleasure of the board. I'd be glad to list the items that were mentioned up to now, but if there's anything else. Okay.
And I would also like to, I just would feel more comfortable seeing a possible materials list. I know we've discussed it, but the code does have specifics in there, and if we could just see what possible items, and I understand that safety is a concern, and I understand all those factors, but if we could, have a possible list, because then if this material doesn't work, you're going to select Plan B or...
Okay, we can do that.
And if the applicant is amenable to coming back one more time, we could research the building code items in the interim and ensure whatever's proposed could.
Okay, well, we've researched a lot of that right now, you know, with the height of the porch has to be, if it's below 30 inches, we can go with no railing or reduced railing.
Okay, so we may be fine.
That's the main one right
I
there.
just, yeah, I thought you mentioned something about building code, but yeah. Okay.
So you want to go over your list?
Okay, so we are, here's the items I had. Reducing the size of the porch with respect to width, depth, or both. The applicant has proposed a reduced size. The applicant did explain at least a little more clarification in my mind as to how the entry gable interacts with the roof. I believe the applicant mentioned making the roof shallower. That's one I didn't quite catch, but that was an item.
If you bring the porch deck back 2 foot,
Mm-hmm.
then the roof is going to come back 2 foot also.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the slope. Okay.
No, the slope is
Okay.
going to be the same because
Okay.
that way, when you go back, it's going to come up. It's going to open it up.
Okay.
That's why you went. Excuse me. That's why you went with such a slight slope.
Okay. Removing the porch railing, and the applicant did indicate that he'd be willing to do that. Okay. The staircase, I believe the applicant indicated stairs to match the current width or the current door entry width. On the materials, I believe we have the brick stairs, brick piers supports, and then all wood materials for everything else, which I believe would include the columns, the decking, the
Handrails.
handrails. What else am I missing? The ceiling of the porch. I
Ceiling
think
we
you
would,
believe
too.
you mentioned. You mentioned the fascia of the roof would match existing home. I don't know
Yeah,
what the material
that's essentially
there.
the width. You know, it's all going to be wood anyhow, but
The
like a-
fascia will
the
be wood
fascia
as well.
Be
Okay.
matching also.
Yeah, I didn't catch that before. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Mention it. The width of the wood deck planks, you would bring that back.
I
Whatever
could do
you
that.
propose
It's gonna
on
be it'll because the smaller 2-inch, 3-inch decking looks a lot more to style to the time period.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be something in that range.
Okay. Was there anything I missed that any of you got? Because that's pretty much, or did I miss anything you
No,
mentioned?
that was about it. Yeah. And like to emphasize a little bit more, the reason we went to 8 is because with no rails, it becomes a safety issue. You don't want to crowd too much people in there. 10 is
But
a little bit much.
the
I go
porch
along.
on Pineapple Street doesn't have any rails.
Huh?
The porch on 308 Pineapple doesn't have any rails.
Which one is it? Pineapple?
308 Pineapple.
I
mean,
believe
that's
that's a very, very, very low one.
Mm.
Okay? You're right, it doesn't, but it's almost ground level.
Oh, yeah, that's right on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I say, ours is going to be in the range of 20 inches.
So what it's talking about is if you're out there gathering around the table, step off the deck.
Yeah. Now
At my age, that's a tough thing to do.
yeah. That's why I stayed with that. That's why we came up with 8 foot.
Did we talk about, in the staff report, it says it's not clear how the proposed roof will be attached to the entry gable, the final dispositions of the entry gable, support brackets, and the lower corner board are also not clear. Did
Okay,
we-
that's what we were, let me bring this one up again. Right now, of course, you don't know until you get into it, okay? But,
Do those brackets?
yeah, that's it right there. Okay, the way they usually do this is you have your wall, you rip the, take the roof out, you put the rafters on top of the wall, and that's your support. Okay, and then it's tied right into the existing rafters, nailed right in. Okay, so that means, like, it's gonna be a little bit higher. Okay, the roof is not gonna be right at the eaves, the top of the roof is gonna be a little bit higher. And it's gonna come out at a slight slope. So it's gonna intersect the, gable as it comes down. Where it intersects, that's where we're gonna tie it on.
Okay.
So essentially, you're gonna have like a flat roof, and if you look at it, that'll be sitting in the exact same position on top of the roof. Okay?
So would the board request maybe a detail, a cross-section or a,
Well,
I don't know if that's,
again, we don't know what we have exactly in there. I can tell you what we expect to do and what we hope to find, but until you start opening it up, you don't.
right, so here's the question. I walk on the porch, go up to your front door, I look up, can I see the brackets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, just basic.
Did you show my drawing?
No, I didn't. Want me to pass it
Yeah,
around?
just give us some, yeah, it doesn't have to be construction level.
Okay.
I would just ask if the board would like to see that detail. It would help me.
This is good. We didn't get this. We have one of these. I can give. This is not perspective. That's what we're looking
Well, it
at.
is a perspective, but it's a little out of scale.
It's out of scale. That's right. It's out of scale.
It
That's
looks-
okay.
But that's the way the undercarriage would look.
Could you show that to each of the board members, and then we will include that in the file?
Now, this is coming out straight from your existing eaves, okay? That's where we think it's gonna intersect, and we'll go down from there. Okay, so this is gonna be flat area. We're gonna maintain the same size and everything for your bracket. Okay, the light there, everything else. This is all gonna be covered. Essentially, you won't see the beams or anything. Okay. And then, like, say, this is be set back, so that's what, from this angle, that's probably what you see on. Okay.
And this is at the 10-foot.
That's at the 10 foot, that's right. Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's out of scale. It's a little out of scale. It was just a freehand sketch to show you the how we were preserving the underside.
Right. Now you can tell this top right here, this is good. And then you can see how we're keeping you.
This would all.
Yeah, this right here be lining up along your.
Ms. McNeese, does this answer the questions that the staff had in item number 4 then? Is that sufficient?
I didn't get a good look at it, but yeah, I think it's sufficient for me to show what's going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is gonna be. Right where it's at.
I didn't hear her question.
Okay, and you will need to submit
My
that.
question simply was,
You'll need to submit that to.
his presentation to us satisfy the staff question, which was several questions outlined in item number 4.
Okay.
The staff had addressed
There were
several
5 of them,
questions
yeah.
regarding that gable. And I'm wondering if that will be sufficient to answer that in the final.
And his answer?
Well, I asked Ms. McNeese, and she said she feels that on behalf of the staff that would be sufficient.
Okay.
It shows what's going to happen. That's what I wanted to know. So,
Any other questions, comments from the board? Anybody dare take a stab at a motion?
Oh, gosh.
So there is an application pending. So the board can do either, it must vote on it and either approve it with conditions, or deny it. Or if there's discussion with the applicant and everyone comes to consensus, the applicant can choose to continue.
Okay.
So those are your options.
Discussion?
Thank you, Melissa.
I just worry that we don't cover it all.
Yeah.
And that, seeing it,
Oh, I
Often.
can't hear you either.
I just worry that without seeing it redrawn or whatever, that we might miss something. And that we have to be very specific and outline everything on that approval. So that's my only concern, and if we can be very detailed, but I'm just not sure I can be very detailed enough in a motion. So
With
somebody
you.
else wants to
No, I agree with you.
try that?
So would the applicant be willing to continue and come back with the details
Yeah,
that are
if I
discussed?
could, just real quick, I did kind of do a quick sketch of it being only at 8 feet, if that would somehow help the process, but I don't know, that's up to Bill.
Well, if you guys agree with the 8 foot, okay, then we'll set up the drawings and stuff. I need to have pretty good assurance that it's gonna go through before we continue. Okay, so,
So that we can give that kind
Until we saw the package, that would be hard to give you an assurance tonight.
Can we agree that the simplicity of the style of the porch is appropriate?
but, let's put it this way. What is it you exactly wanna see? And then I can tell whether we can do something with it. Outside of just general, I wanna see how it looks. I'd rather say, okay, I wanna know more about the length, I wanna know more about the width, I wanna know how the gable's gonna actually look, I wanna know how the stairs are. I need to know that.
Well, okay. When we go back to our staff report, there are 5 items that were addressed. And so we could just work through those 5 items. And yes, we had a presentation, but in the past, we have to have it in writing, it's my understanding, or something that is going to be more concrete than just our discussion. And just for instance, one of the items is a materials list. It's number 5. So if we were to write a motion, we could say pending a materials list, for instance. But then you might come back with that materials list again, and we find that, there's several items on this that we have to ask you to remove or amend, and then it would delay it again further. So I don't have any, personally, I think that having the size of the porch smaller to 8 feet and ending at the windows, that's agreeable.
Okay, that's what I need to know.
But
Because that's a big enough.
I can't speak for the rest of the board, but again, that's just the size of the porch. It's not how the whole package comes together for me.
I can work with the package, however, I can't work with the size, okay, simply because of the windows.
Right.
And the safety. Okay, so if we can if the size is okay, I'll keep on going, and I can work with you with anything else you want to do. But I'm just limited on the size.
Is it possible, Mr. Perez, to make a motion that this application we only approve one piece of it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, can you, if I might suggest something, okay? Can you approve a motion that the width is gonna be so much, height is gonna be, the depth is gonna be so much? And
Yeah.
work with that.
The issue is that he's applying for one thing, and it's not supposed to be broken up into different piecemeals, because then you would have a approval of a porch of this size, but you haven't told anything else. So
Right.
you really need to kind of do it holistically.
I feel like you're kind of asking for what we will approve, and that's.
Well,
really
I need your
not-
input, because if I'm gonna go
Okay.
into this,
Well,
go into
I
it
can,
further
I can tell you from where I sit, I still struggle with it.
with the size. Okay.
Not the length, I understand now why I did, but I understand now why the length has to be the length it is, but 8 foot still seems large. So, I can't say any more than that.
Okay. Yes, up to you guys. What do you want to do?
So, I don't know where to go
I
from here.
can't,
Does
I
somebody wanna
can't make a motion on this. I don't feel confident that I can make a motion on this right now. So if somebody else would like to attempt it,
We could, if you want us to go back and draw it up again, we can. Okay.
Aren't there just like a couple of items that we could just put in writing? That we are agreeing at the support section, we're agreeing to reduce the width by
3 foot.
3 foot. We're agreeable to eliminate the railing, handrail, and that we're gonna replicate the exact profile of the steps themselves. And then the last one would be that the materials are wood and brick.
And then, depending on that gives us, something to work with. We'll bring back the drawings and then you can go.
But that seems like it would be, that we would all be in agreement with that right now.
Well, it's up to the board if somebody wants to make a motion.
And real quick before any motion, because there are 4 people, you will need 3 votes for an
Understood.
affirmative. 2, a tie, so to speak, will be effectively a denial of the motion.
If the motion is denied with all the changes, can they come back and represent it?
There is an appeals process. Yeah, I think it's in 10902.
Yeah,
That-
I believe they can reapply as a new
Yes.
project, but I'll have to look up if there's a time period.
Yeah, denial of.
Okay, this is what I'd like to do, if it's all right with the board. We'll give you another set of drawings, what we have, what we've talked about, and we can go from there. You have a better sight of what we have. If that's all right with you.
So you're asking for a continuance.
Yeah, asking for a continuance.
Do we have to vote on that, or?
No, you can, by board consensus and by, the request of the applicant.
Yes.
Agree.
Okay,
Okay, sounds good.
continuance granted. We'll see you in June.
And when
You-
will we be back?
June the
first Monday of, yeah.
June what? First part of June, we'll be here.
Thank you for all your hard work. I know
That's
you
June the
put
3rd.
To this. I'm sorry
3rd?
that we're so
Okay.
hard on you.
Thank you for your time.
Staff comments?
Okay. I just wanted to let you all know I sent you a couple of emails today with some materials, but I was able to attend the certified local government training at the end of April. It was great. And May, as you saw in the emails, is Historic Preservation Month. There will be a proclamation at the Board of Commissioners meeting at their May 14th meeting. They would like to know, and you guys can get back to me whether any of you can attend that meeting for that proclamation. And the other thing is, at that training, the state staff will come and give us training, either just general, specific topics. That is something that we are entitled to. I learned this at the conference, right? As a certified local government, so that's really great. Maybe once we get a full board, or later, we'd have to set it up and arrange for it. But it is at no cost to the city, that they will come and do the training. So it could be that if you're interested, I'll start looking into the logistics of that and what it would take to bring them, and then I can find out, what topics they have and what you'd like to see.
Okay, that'd be great.
But
I looked at some of the information you sent today, and I saw that there's 3 webinars training that we can go through this week or
Yes.
next week.
mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll be able to do 2 of them. I can't do the third,
Okay.
but I'll notify you as to which ones I can do.
Yeah, the webinars, the first one, What's Historic? That was one of the training sites that's going to actually be this Thursday. And that was excellent webinars. So they give a lot of examples, which I really, really liked. Lots of specific examples on that. The other 2 are, I guess, would be new to me. They didn't do these at the conference, but the second one is Local Government Guide to Federal Undertakings in the Section 106 process, and then the third one is Preparing a National Register nomination. So, if you're interested in those,
I'm interested. I'm wondering if they, sometimes with webinars, they will record them and make it available through a link at a later time if you can't attend the session.
live, yeah.
I would be interested in that.
Okay.
I looked for that in there, but I didn't find that information on how they can record them. I'm sure it's there, but a lot of the links were 404 eras, so I couldn't. There's just nothing there.
You mentioned that. I hadn't looked at the links, but I'll find that out. The 2 staff people, Megan McDonald and Ruben Acosta, I think it is. They are excellent, very helpful, very responsive. So yeah, I'll find out from them.
Thank you for your efforts on that. I really appreciated it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at what you sent yet. If the webinars
Okay.
are this week, I should be able to participate in those.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with the board, the empty seats?
I have not heard from the clerk, so I will have to check with them if we've had any applicants. We need a member and an alternate.
Right.
So,
Seen anything? I see a lot of things from the city on social media. I have not seen anything about an open space on the board, and that would be, maybe people just aren't aware. Unless you
Okay.
go into the clerk's office, you might
Well, I
not
would
know
think
that.
they'd pull somebody out of that Citizens Academy too. That's how I came through.
that's where we get, some of our members is from that. And if you are talking with anyone, be sure and remind them that we're going to be updating our guidelines this year. So it's going to be work, but it's going to be
We have a budget
rewarding.
doing
I
that.
think. I'm sorry.
When?
Well, I guess the budget will be signed, here in a couple weeks? Does anybody know? But yeah, we're in the budget, so once the governor signs the budget, the state will send us an agreement. We can't start before July 1, that's the start of the state fiscal year, but hopefully we'll be ready to go July, around that time, so, and we have to do it within a year, so that will be something that's rewarding, might address, some of the things we heard tonight about underrepresented styles and, make your lists. I'm making my list, and, well, so anybody that be interested in not just these applications, but it'll be good, I think.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? No. All right, this meeting is adjourned at 7:52.